Hi everybody, my name is Juan Carlos, founder of Inspiral Growth. A few weeks ago, together with the team of Inspiral Growth, we decided to launch Growth Hack Live. Our idea is to share all the knowledge and experience that we have achieved and accumulated with our clients. So we decided to use this space in order to also explain the steps that we take with the agency, with each of our clients. So let's go by step number 1. The DNA of your brand. We want to know what is your vision. Where do you see yourself in 20 years from now? Where do you see your brand, your company in that time? The mission is about how do you plan to achieve that vision year after year? What are the missions, the objectives, the strategies that you are going to apply each year in order to achieve that vision? The vision shouldn't change in the long term, but the mission is quite adaptable according to the markets, external factors, and of course, what do you want to achieve as a team? Let's say, for example, coronavirus. Coronavirus changed a lot of companies, a lot of sectors. In the case of marketing, it basically was a boost. It was a positive boost because so many companies wanted to be online suddenly, and so many companies were not prepared to sell their services or their products online. So that was quite a time where many companies, including us, accelerated their processes into growth hacking. Now, in the DNA, we also see other factors, like what are the USPs of your brand? Why would they believe in buying from your company? What is the personality of your brand? It's like, for example, the hero personality, when you see actually brands like Axe, the deodorant company. And we also have the whys, like Wikipedia, for example. Now, there are other parts in this DNA of your brand that what we wish to know, like, for example, what are the steps in your customer journey? What are your indirect competitors and your direct competitors? Let's say, for example, you sell playsets. Your indirect competitor could be also, for example, even YouTube Kids, because it's also targeting the same factor, family moments, let's say. Now, in order to reach market fit, we also add a few more steps. Not only about knowing your buyer persona, not only knowing about what are the average information that you can get from several softwares like Facebook or SEMrush, we also want to know about the job to be done of your company. Job to be done is a strategy where you define what is exactly the job that you are supposed to do. What are you really solving? And what is the most simple way of describing the task that you daily are occupied with your company in order to solve that specific problem. Now, about the job to be done, of course, we have several questions on how to get there. Let's give you an example. There's a company here in Holland called SwapFits. One of the reasons why people get to use this service is because actually it gives them peace of mind. You don't need to be worried about a bike getting damaged, being stolen. And you don't need to invest in quite an expensive bike if you're only going to be for a short time in the city. SwapFits is a service that actually it allows you to get a bike in every moment to exchange it when you need it. So the job to be done from SwapFits, for example, is peace of mind for their clients, more than just giving them a bike. The second step, we talk about the golden circle. For those ones that are quite avid readers from Simon Sinek, he has this golden circle strategy where actually he describes that every company should start with why. Why are they doing what they are doing? And how companies about 20-30 years ago, they were always focused on the how they wanted to deliver something, how they did it better than the rest, how they would like to explain and achieve the solutions that actually their clients are looking for. But the connection with the why, like for example with Apple, for all those Apple fans, for all those Apple users, it's quite clear when you buy a product of Apple why you connect themselves. That's the famous, even the marketing strategy that Steve Jobs was using with Think Different for those creative people. That was his message. That was basically the why that he was offering. So what's your why? That's one of the questions that actually certainly you have to define when you're launching a new company. In the case of growth hacking, is sharing all the knowledge. For us, it's about the why do we do what we do is that we were launching products into the market. We were launching new companies into the market until they would find out that had not all the tools or not all the necessary tools to be able to launch a product efficiently and successfully. So that's how we started creating our first marketing agencies, gathering all the experts and understanding how we could do not only great products, but also how we could launch them better into the market. And that's how Inspiral Growth was born. Now, phase 3, it's about their OKRs. OKRs from John Doerr was created in IBM. Objectives and key results was something that passed through many different companies in the history where when you read a book like, for example, Measure What Matters from John Doerr, you can see all the history from IBM to things like has happened with, for example, with Netflix, of Google, and even foundations like the One Foundation of Bono, the singer. OKRs is something that you can apply for a company, you can apply it for a team, you can even apply it for your own personal life. It's about defining objectives. Certainly can start by defining qualitative objectives that you can measure on a certain period. Let's say, for example, in Inspiral Growth, we do it every 3 months, and you can use those metrics to define how fast are you reaching those objectives. OKRs is something that we try to define with each company, at least 3 of them. So that's how we can define all the efforts that we are doing as a growth hacking agency. Phase 4 is about defining your channels. And when I mean the channels, it's about defining your social channels. Nowadays, these kind of platforms like Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, they have such an amazing growth year after year that many businesses, they don't even need anymore to have really a website or an app or an online platform of their own. They can use these networks to make their own business. Take it out from an example, like the most famous TikToker at this moment. If he's followed by 140 million around the world. Now, if you are one of these people that actually they're using these social channels as their main source of income, you won't necessarily need to have a website for selling something. But of course, in other cases, where you're an e-commerce company, when you are a company that are actually serving online services, you use the social channels to support your efforts. But which ones? That's the question of the analysis. Which ones actually you can use? Because if you start using all of them, you can end up using more than 20 social channels if you wish so. But all the time that it will take to optimize all of them and to keep consistency in all of them better be used in which of those are really bringing you conversion, which of those are really bringing you the leads that you need. Yet let's say, for example, if you are a company that is selling furniture. In the case of furniture, a channel like Pinterest might be quite interesting to use. It's not really that well known in all the countries around the world, but in markets like in the US, for example, in South America, in Europe, it's a center of creativity, it's a center of inspiration for furniture builders, for decorators, for families moving to a new city, to a new house, and looking how their home could look like. The next step, how are you going to manage all those channels? How are you going to manage your team? Defining what is your talent management. How are you going to define the talent that you have inside of your company? And how are you defining the talent that you have externally? Influencers, marketing, external bloggers that may help in different strategies that you will have. But those are steps that we will leave to the end. At the end is about start to defining all your structure. Start defining really what is the plan in a short term, in a long term, considering that it's also always flexible, adapting to the market. Once you define all that, defining, okay, so what are the main channel that I'm going to use for my business? What is really what I really need at this moment? And since the 90s, it became easier to develop one. Nowadays, you don't even need that much knowledge of coding to launch your own shop with Shopify, launch your own WordPress. And even some other platforms like Hotspot are doing some amazing web development solutions in order to connect all the tools that you have available for your business. When it comes about connecting a CRM with your website and even creating a complete email marketing funnel, well, Hotspot can be a great solution if you want to have everything at once. Once you have all the information, where do you want to take your company? What are the channels that you want to use? What are your objectives? How are you going to manage with your people? What are the possible situations that you need to focus in terms of, let's say, logistics, let's say finances, depending on what are the necessities or what are the main factors that keep your operations going. Then you decide what is the kind of channels that actually I can use best. If you are going to launch a website, launch a custom-made website, a template, where you are just going to use your social media channels. And the last part, then is when it starts all your strategies with growth hacking. Growth hacking can also be applied to your own team. That's why we investigate who are the ones that actually are busy with your social media, busy with your logistics, with your finances, your operations, and what are their real motivations? Are they satisfied doing those sort of tasks? Well, those are questions that we also like to ask in order to understand if we really could even apply growth hacking with the right people. Growth is a mindset. You are one of those persons that are always looking for new tools, new ideas that you can apply to your company, then growth hacking is something that you will love. From a web development, business analytics, data scientists, nowadays using it more and more. Since over 10 years, even was said that actually data scientists became the next growth career. Applying things actually like machine learning. If you are talking about more defined growth hack, I would say it's more about search engine optimization, for example, conversion rate optimization. When you are talking about how many people do you bring to your main channel, that's more about search engine optimization. And let's say, for example, CRO, it's about how many of those converted into a real client. What were the steps that they had to take? Which were the moments where they probably felt frustrated, and that's why they could have left your website. And let me give you an example. Let's say that Jane wants to buy books. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we were talking about buying books in these large companies like Barnes and Nobles. But creating a new business around books, at this moment, I would say that it's quite a challenge, especially when you have to compete against companies like Amazon. When it comes about growth hacking, consider all those steps taken by startups like Amazon, like Apple, like Google. Startups actually that started creating all these different hacks. They were already implemented as effectively in Silicon Valley that now you can find them in Europe as well, and why not in the rest of the world. So that is our goal. With Inspiral Growth is actually to take all these lessons from all these companies, to get all of these experiments and to apply them into new companies, apply them in companies that actually they don't have the large budget. For example, a company like ALM could have. They don't have these large budgets like new unicorns companies like Booking.com, but yet they could use tactics, they could use strategies to reach specific targets more effectively. These were the 7 steps that we take in Inspiral Growth. As we also said in the name, Inspiral means that for us it's about growing in spirals, meaning that the 7 steps, the 7 phases of the Inspiral Plan are repetitive. Every time that we reach to the growth hacking, we go back with feedback, we go back with lesson learned to the first one. We go back to the DNA and decide if actually we are in the right path, if we are actually getting the right conclusions and the responses to the original hypothesis. So there you go, guys. I hope actually this brings you some valuable information of how we do it. We also share all this information on our blog or social media. So please follow us in Instagram, follow us in Facebook, and certainly in YouTube, the channel that we are now promoting the most. Follow us for most news and leave us a comment. Let us know actually what is your opinion about this. Let us know how would you do it differently. What would you have improve in our Inspiral Plan? At the end, we're all here about learning. We're all here about experimenting and getting better. Things get done better. And if you have any question, please just let me know.